Greetings, my lovelies. Do you want to know the secrets of how to become a successful entrepreneur, starting from Philadelphia and ending up on the streets of Hollywood with a hit show around the world on Netflix? Well, stay tuned. We're going to be diving in with Kevin Kreider from Bling Empire on Netflix. Massive hit around the world now. That's coming up next.
Peter Lorimer Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome someone who I admire, someone who has a brilliant story, someone who has taken risks, someone who continues to take risks and battles inner demons like the rest of us. And so I want to invite to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kevin Kreider from Bling Empire, one of the top hit shows on Netflix right now. Kevin.
Thanks, Peter.
Welcome.
Is it weird that I clap for myself?
No, I often do it quietly.
Yeah, no one else is clapping. I'm just like,
There's nothing wrong with it. I sometimes go into a quiet room and just give myself a little round of applause now and again.
No, I've never done that one.
Well, anyway, we're getting deep already. So I'm going to start with where you are now, Kevin, because to the outside world, you are, you're like a dude that's like, he made it. He's in Hollywood. He's on a hit show. He's the star of a hit show. It's known around the world. And I think people become a little kind of almost immune to knowing that there is a story behind everyone, right? And the podcast, one of the reasons people tune into this podcast is we like to explore the entrepreneurial journey of my guests. And you're a friend as well, someone that I love and admire. And let's start with where you are now. Can you tell everybody about your show and what's going on?
Yeah, so Netflix reality show, their first all Asian reality show, Asian American that is, it released 4 weeks ago, a little bit more, and it just took off. It went internationally, #1 in most countries, and top 10 in the US for about 2 weeks. And it just got so much attention and press. So this whole new idea that I made it, quote unquote, is very new to me. It's only been about a month. So much has changed. I have more of a team behind me. I have agents who are now working for me, top-notch agents for branding, commercial, non-scripted, speaking. And so it's just an amazing journey. Like it's an amazing turnaround. I mean, I knew it would be a big deal. I didn't know what the life is like when it's a big deal, though. And so it's kind of a new, interesting life perspective. Because I feel the same, except once in a while I'll talk to you and be like, my head's really numb right now. There's just so much coming my way. I have no idea what to do. And so that's the only difference, I think. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Let's touch on this, right? Because, it's almost like Gary Vee said he was an overnight success after posting for 12 years consistently on social media. Let's talk about this. I'm going to kind of first of all, I'm going to start with this, which is, can you tell people where you were just 12 short months ago?
Sure. 12 short months ago, I was back in Philadelphia, probably. I mean, I lived here in Los Angeles, but I was back in Philadelphia. Our show was actually released, delayed. It was delayed because of COVID and all of the political climate going around in the US and the world. And so I was back at home with my parents just wondering, oh my God, it's going to get pushed back again. Is it going to actually even air? Like all of the sacrifice, hard work, and opportunity could just disappear. And so there's a lot of uncertainty. But the one thing that I wanted to do was spend time with my family. And so I still worked on other projects while during this down period. I started up development of a TV show that I have working with a writing partner right now, other scripts about Korean adoptees and the Asian American experience. So working on a memoir, like all of these different projects all around the Asian American, specifically the Korean adopted experience.
Amazing. Amazing. So what I want to kind of bring home to everyone is, 12 months ago, Kevin was still slugging away at this, but nothing had happened. The show was getting made, but you were just you still are a regular guy, but you were just a regular guy in LA, right? Between LA and Philly.
Regular guy saying, "Hey, I'm working on a show." Oh, everybody is here, Kevin. Right. Oh, I'm writer. Oh, everybody is, Kevin. I'm a model. Oh, yeah. Next, just like everything to say that.
Right. So let's now skip back, because your journey to Hollywood is something that, you didn't just luck into it. You didn't just, I know the backstory in this, and you chipped away and you worked and you worked and you worked and you made a documentary, and you have a very specific upbringing. So can we go back to kind of the genesis of Kevin Kreider? Where did Kevin Kreider come from?
Yeah.
Where did your journey begin?
Like literally it started when I was born and given up for adoption right away from my birth parents. And so then at 3 years old, I was adopted into an American white family in Philadelphia. And I was just a normal kid until I realized I wasn't normal. Like I was in a white community, and kids have no filter, and they were very, very obviously making fun of me and making me feel different because I was Asian. And I didn't know what Asian was until I was probably in kindergarten or something, or first grade. And then I got really self-conscious about being Asian for a very long time. And so that journey really was just my identity as a Korean adoptee, by the way, because the Korean adoption experience is a little bit different than the Asian American, because we have white parents. We have a white and Americanized upbringing, a little bit more than Asian or a third generation Asian here in America. So we kind of feel how Asian Americans feel, but just like 10 times more, just feeling like we're not white enough or Asian enough for the communities or America. Like we're a citizen here. We know nothing else but America, but like at times we don't feel like we're accepted as American here. So that journey started when I was really young.
So you had, in your most formative years, you had maybe a struggle of not knowing where you should land.
Where I should belong, imagine. Yeah.
It must be very, very confusing.
Right. Imagine if you don't know math and science very well, and your stereotype for Asians is you should be good at math and science and you suck at it, and you don't know martial arts at all. It's like, where do you find your place in the world?
That's so trippy.
It is. It's so weird.
So how did you, so obviously this affected you, this affected Kevin. I can imagine, you internalized a lot of this. I mean, you and I are friends, and we mentor each other in life anyway. And we've spoken about this kind of off camera, but when you kind of internalized this stuff and you were like, no, I want to break out of these stereotypes. I want to just be Kevin.
Yeah.
What was the cathartic moment that propelled you forward?
Definitely. I mean, I definitely felt hopeless and powerless, and almost like actually I played the victim for a very long time. But I think it's normal, because you have to realize at one point that this isn't working for you. And I realized very shortly it wasn't working for me. I was like, what is the one thing that I can control and change, even though it might not be ideal for me? And it was actually my body. Like I literally got into fitness and working out more. And I was like, well, good bodies get attraction and you feel good. They're confident. And so I started working out more and gained a little bit more confidence and gained a little bit more, attention and just admiration from white guys and white girls. It wasn't so much the Asian girls growing up, actually. They thought I was too Americanized and too white then. And so,
oh my God, it's so confusing.
It's so complex if you're not Asian, like it's very, because I don't think any races except for maybe the Black community actually understand this very much. It's like you're just not perfect for either fit.
Right. It's very interesting to the listeners and to the listeners and viewers. I sound like I'm on an old BBC show from like the 20s. Hello, viewers. I'm married to an Asian woman. I'm married to a Vietnamese woman, Cindy. And I will tell you this is how subtle racism can be that I experienced with her. So we were in Wyoming, right? We were at Jackson Hole on vacation with the kids, and I like to go exploring. So we went off into the mountains, and then we found this super cute log cabin, smoke coming out of it, and it said hot chocolate. It was freezing. So I'm like, okay, let's go in there. It was so picturesque. And we went in, and there was 3 dudes with their guns next to them, and it just fell silent
when they saw you as Cindy.
But I didn't know this, dude. I was oblivious. So we walked in, and I said, "Can I get 3 hot chocolates?" And he charged me like $30.
Get out of here!
And I was a little freaked out, but I'm like, whatever. He sees I'm a tourist. Big deal, no big deal.
Peter, did you think like, oh, they must have seen my show? They're like starstruck or something. No. They're like, oh, they must have seen Stay Here,
No, I don't think so. This is actually pre-Stay Here. Oh, okay. But we, if you ever want to see a show that's nowhere near as good as Kevin's, you can watch.
Wonderful.
Well, you're too sweet.
I watched it all. It's great.
Oh, yes, you're too sweet. So we were in Wyoming, right? And we're in this log cabin down this road with deer prancing around. It was so picturesque. These 3 dudes who were, I don't really know what their job occupation was, but they were having breakfast, and they just literally put their forks down, grabbed their guns, and walked out. And I thought it was because we were city slickers, right?
Oh, yeah.
Cindy goes, "Did you see that?" She said they walked out, and they looked at me as if I was a piece of crap.
Yeah.
And she said, that's racism right there. And it was so subtle that I can only imagine. It was almost undetectable to me, a white guy. I thought it was other things. And she said, that's what you get.
Well, there were other things that were forms of racism that was subtle even to me, and I'm Asian. When my first compliment from any girl was, "You're looking for an Asian guy." Like, that was actually a form of racism, because then they would say, "I don't ever date Asian guys." And it's like, you literally just excluded a single entire race with that one sentence. If that isn't racism, then I don't know what is. But here's the thing. It was subtle for me, because it felt like a compliment at the time, right? And there's something about feeling a little special, like, oh, I'm a little bit different than those other guys then. And you kind of play into it for a little bit. And so I played into it because it was enjoyable, because it was the best thing I was getting at the time.
I can only imagine just being raised by. I've spoken to you when you've been at your dad's house, and your parents seem like absolutely lovely, lovely, lovely folk.
Yeah.
So I can imagine, growing up in this in a way that you thought was one thing, and then it ended up turning out to be something else, which was not bad, but it must be very jolting. So. Let's talk about your documentary, because I feel like that's where the birth of Kevin, the artist. I mean, we can before that, if you want to see the genesis of Kevin's career, I don't want to gloss over this, but you were featured in Men's Health, Men's Fitness. I mean, you were a very prominent model on a global level, if you want to share on that for a second.
Yeah, to a certain extent, because it was a lot of fitness stuff I was modeling in. I was a shirtless model at Abercrombie and Fitch, the Fifth Avenue store, just getting photos with girls and stuff. But I could, even when I was working there, I could feel a sense of, I don't really want a photo with an Asian shirtless guy. I would sometimes see the girls go in and bring like a white guy or a black guy out and take photos with them instead. Those stuff stung a little bit, but my thing is, though, my message has always been the same, and my purpose, which has always been, I need to do something about this. I want to. Something's calling me to change that perception of how Asian men are seen in media, modeling, all that kind of stuff. And for a while, I decided to just try to be that message, right? It was just show up to castings, but it just ate up at me so much. So I started speaking about it. But then I got shut down because a lot of people 12 years ago didn't know what that stuff was. They're like, what do you mean there's racism in dating towards Asian guys? It's just a preference, and all that kind of stuff. So it really confused me for a little bit. Spent years kind of talking it through with people, articulating how I was feeling, what was really going on. That led me to some videos on YouTube, which then got the attention from Huffington Post. Actually, they did a big thing on me that led me into everything that I have right now. A documentary was made just because of one of those videos. I got into a TED Talk after the documentary, and the TED Talk became part of the documentary, but it got the eyes of filmmakers and some producers, and they were like, we need this message to get out there. And by the way, those two producers are both Asian women.
Amazing. So let's talk about the documentary, because it was a really heartfelt kind of self-portrait. Where can people find this documentary? Because I'm sure there are people who are watching right now who are saying, he's telling my story. He's telling my story. So where can they find that?
We've had so many people ask, and right now we actually took it off online because we're looking for distribution. But if it doesn't get distribution, they can just follow me on my social media, and I'll post up where they can watch it afterwards if it doesn't get distribution. But we're hoping something on an online streaming platform, and then if it doesn't get there, we'll just distribute it ourselves, because the whole point of this wasn't to make money from the documentary. It was just for Asian guys to feel heard and seen, and to see like there is hope. You can get past this form of a barrier of Asian masculinity and media and all that kind of stuff, and just see a journey of like struggle and hope and success at the end.
So one of the things that I love about successful people, and I love about entrepreneurs, is there comes a point where there's a crossroads, right? You were successful, you still are, but you were successful as a model. You were successful in being a representation of the Asian male community. You had all of this success, which it would have been very easy for you to just kind of, stay in the same lane, keep going. But you had a crossroads where it was like, no, I want to go for it. I want to risk it, and I want to go for it. Can you walk us through that mindset?
So I actually lost it all back in 2013. I was at a crossroads right there where it's just, it was drugs, alcohol, all that stuff, right? And just wasn't doing me very well. I had medication, it just wasn't working anymore. It was making me more numb and depressed. Actually, depressed was the only feeling I could have. And so then I got off medication, moved back to Philadelphia, took care of my health. And there was a crossroads when actually I got sober in 2015. And it was seriously 2016, actually. And it was serious. I can't do math. It was seriously it was seriously the crossroads for me, because I was like, my life, and I don't feel good about my life. It has to get better, because what I'm doing is just not working. I know what I'm trying to convey to the world is right, but it's not coming across from a genuine place or some place of vulnerability. So like I had to put all that stuff down in my life, drugs, alcohol, and just live a sober life. And literally so quickly, within a year, my life changed. And then I got opportunities through sharing the message, because I just got the courage to become myself. I feel like all the extra substances were trying to make me a person that I wanted to be. And then I take that away. I'm like, I feel everything. And then I had to learn how to actually be comfortable in my own skin. And then once that happened, I became so comfortable being around Asians and learning more about Asian culture and loving Asian culture and people, and then just speaking my truth. Just speaking my authentic truth, whether people believe it or not. Because if you looked at me, you would be like, this guy doesn't face emasculation or dating problems. But I did for a very long time. I don't now, but I'm just saying, this, but I don't now, but it was for a long time. I dealt with that stuff.
You just said something so beautiful that I think is so crucial to this interview, which, I can relate. I'm an Englishman, and the Brits are known to kind of pound the pints a lot. Mm-hmm. And when you were using substances, you found you thought it would help, but what in fact it did was totally cloud your direction and your vision.
It did, definitely.
And so just for people who are out there who are listening, who might, a lot of people have dreams. I've worked a lot with creatives my entire life, and drugs and alcohol kind of are very much a big part of that community. And I know a lot. I've encountered a lot of people throughout my life who drink heavily and do drugs to kind of shut the voices down. And I've known men who I love and adore who I could see decades have slipped away. And the beautiful thing that you just said was when the clarity you were looking for and the escapism that you looked for, maybe with substances, you found with a clear mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And so once you got clarity, what happened next?
It was, okay, what I'm doing isn't what I want to do anymore. It was because I was still personal training, doing fitness. And I was like, man, I really don't want to do this. Why did I want to do fitness and nutrition? And it was because I wanted to change my body first. I wanted to be seen different from the outside world, but I also wanted to see myself differently. But then I started to get clarity. I'm like, this isn't working for me anymore. It did for a little bit, but fitness was a tool, a way for me to express myself. It wasn't supposed to be my life's purpose. So then I started speaking about my past and what made me who I am today and the things that I do to overcome things and to help other people out, like the Asian guys first, right? And then I started to get so much feeling of fulfillment, of getting closer to fulfilling my purpose. And that kept driving me. And that's the thing. I kept going back to it after 12 years, but now with the clarity and the right timing, it seemed like the right thing. And this was before Crazy Rich Asians came out, by the way, stuff.
Right.
So all of a sudden, everything aligned, and it's because I kept going at it and just knowing like, this is my purpose. But why isn't it not manifesting in itself? It's because I didn't have the right mindset for it. I didn't have the clarity. I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready for it, Peter. Like if I would have had that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have blown it all up. And I know that.
Oh my God, this is such a crucial point that, it's like I started the podcast by saying Gary Vee was an overnight success after posting for 12 years. Mm-hmm. Your journey began how many years ago?
12, 14 years ago, at least.
Right. So you're an overnight success after 14 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've had massive success in many arenas, but there is such a key component, such a crucial component. I've been lucky enough to interview awesome entrepreneurs. They all say the same thing, which is the more they give it away, the more successful they become.
Totally.
And almost to the point of it, I could hear in what you were saying, you kind of kept giving it away, not really even necessarily knowing the end result. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. It would always be just sharing my story, like what I did for my personal health and mental health for Asians. And then all of a sudden it was just, I never got a dime from that. And so then it led into more opportunities, and some people would call it branding, right? I just said to myself, I was just speaking my authentic truth. And then it just kept going on. And now I have this opportunity to just be and represent as that Asian guy that I imagined a long time ago, which is just being a cool, sexy dude and just really beyond Asian, and now with Bling Empire, it's like I get so many people just reaching out, a lot of women, different colors, different ages, just saying, man, you're just so amazing. And like, you're hot, and not ... for an Asian guy, which is what every Asian guy's dream is just to be seen as not an Asian guy, but like just an attractive person or a successful entrepreneur. So it broke so many boundaries. It was quite amazing.
It is so subtle. It is absolutely so subtle. And when I was talking about this with some of my pals about you going to be on the show, tell us about the cast, right? Because are they real? Are they really billionaires? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, they really are. But Kane my buddy on there, he's not a billionaire. I mean, his family is. So that's why they're like, why do you have a shoe rack in your apartment if you're a billionaire? It's like, well, his dad doesn't give him billions. He still has to work for it. Obviously he has a little bit of advantages, like an allowance and stuff. But that's what I like about the guy so much. Like he's not the typical trust fund baby. Like he still has to work, which I really admire. Like he loves Buddhism, which is kind of crazy. So we really connected on Buddhism actually, because it just reminded me of like just a good way to live, principles to live by.
Yeah. To all the people out there, I hope this doesn't. Yeah. I was going to say, right. I married a Buddhist, which I really had no idea what Buddhism was. And I have to tell you, after living with a Buddhist, I'm not saying it, other religions or Buddhism isn't a religion, it's a way of life. Living with a Buddhist is freaking awesome. Yeah. And horrendous, because she is always in the moment. Everything is exactly the way it's meant to be. She never stresses about anything because she has complete faith in the divine that everything is already road mapped.
And some people struggle with that.
You're talking to one.
Yeah, I do too. I hate the fact that it's all laid out, but there should be some comfort in it. But for some reason, there's a little bit of anxiety around it. You're like, I have no control.
What if my plan isn't good?
Yeah. What if I don't get what I dreamt of and stuff? It's like, well, actually I'm getting something bigger than what I dreamt of before. Like literally right now in this moment, I see the things lining up for me. I have no clue how it's going to lay out, but I know it's going to be okay now at this point, and I know it's going to work out. And it's actually a bigger dream than I had originally.
I want to go back to the show for a minute, and that's a beautiful point, which I also want to come back. You got so many beautiful points. So let's talk about the show, because the show wasn't necessarily just like it wasn't thrown together. How did you meet the producers of the show?
So Kelly was my first point of contact. And she actually read the book Crazy Rich Asians 6 or 7 years ago when it first came out. And she's been working on trying to get it to be a reality show, because she was like, I actually know the real life Crazy Rich Asians. We should just make a show of this. So it spent 6 or 7 years casting, trying to get the right producers. And then finally they got the right producers, right cast. And then she messaged me and said, hey, look, things are changing. I saw your last video. You should come out here and date. And, I'm a producer, but maybe I can help you in movies and stuff. But anyway, she's like, I just think you're cool and attractive and just want to meet. I just so happened to be out there because I was doing a music video for Guy Tang, and we met up, and it was just like sparks from there. It was like we just literally hit it off, and met Kane the same day that I met Kelly and Cherie, and we just had fun. And then I moved out there, and literally maybe a couple weeks into moving out there, she's like, this guy dropped out of our reality show. You want to be in it? You seem to get along with everybody. And I was like, yeah, I would love to, but I don't want to hold their purses and bags though. Like, can I actually just be myself? And she's like, yeah, of course. I thought she maybe wanted like a assistant or something, or what do they call them when they're on set? Like
runner?
Yeah, like get their coffees and espresso. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that.
Well, you ended up being the star, so you are the glue that binds the entire show together.
Unbelievable, man. Yeah.
I was with you right as not literally physically with you, because we're not allowed because of COVID, but you and I talk a lot, and the run up to the show and then the launch of the show. How is your life now? Okay, this is a really, really important question. How is your life different than it was before the show? And how do you feel about Kevin now that the show has come out?
Those are great questions. If I forget one, please, remind me. But that box behind me that says Bling Empire that Netflix sent in, it came to my door on January 15th, and there were champagne flutes in it, a nice note. And literally I was Zooming with a friend of mine working on a script together. And I literally just started breaking down and crying. And he's like, "What's wrong? You should be celebrating." I was like, "No, man, this is tears of joy. This is 14 years of living in basically almost poverty, living in very, very rigid, just watching my money because I never knew when my next paycheck was, taking the time to do all these interviews and podcasts and documenting my life for free, like all of this stuff and all of the hard work and sacrifice, the risks, like moving here to LA. That was a huge risk for me. I was supposed to go to Asia, start up my fitness business again. Took a risk. Like I took so many risks, took so many failures, 5 years in New York, just failing and just living miserably and just hopeless and just not knowing what this was all for. Literally all of that was in that box and was saying, this is the reason why you went through all of that. And I just started breaking down because I was like, it was worth it. It was so worth it. Just having this come to my doorstep, whether it was a success or not, I didn't know at the time because it was the first day it launched, but I felt like, don't change, because you're good who you are. It's like you've went through that 10 years of molding and fire and tribulations and testing. It's like now, because of that, you are stronger. You had to go through that to become stronger, to now carry on more that's about to come your way. And it just told me that you're ready. So for me, it's not about changing who I am at this point. There are some things that I want to change, obviously, but like those are just personality things that I know for me in my personal relationships and just maybe remessaging now Asian masculinity, because now I get to be that message instead of just talking about it so much. So it's for other people now. It's not just for me. It never was just for me, but it's for other people as well. And it really has to just be for the other people now. So that's how it's changed me a little bit. And it's given me that sense of like, you know what? I have no clue what's going to happen now, but it really is going to be all right. It actually probably better than all right. It's going to be beyond my wildest dreams. And that, yeah.
It's funny that you raise that point. I've heard similar things from other successful entrepreneurs, which is you get to, it's when one is in charge of one's own destiny, as you have been, right? You've always worked for yourself. You've either been modeling or you've been in charge of your own destiny. There comes a point where when you have survived for as long as you have survived and thrived, and now you've had success in modeling, you've had success with the fitness business, you've had success moving to LA. Moving to LA in itself, I think 80% of the people that come here ultimately leave after 5 years.
Yeah.
But you now have success, not just in a show, you're the lead in the show on the most successful network in the world. And it stops being a coincidence, Kevin.
Yeah.
The successes come from you striving, from you reaching, from you. The phrase I love to use is education will only get you 65% of the way. The last 35% is a leap of faith. But 90 people stop at the 65-yard line. And I think the entrepreneurs like to leap. In fact, there is almost like a twisted enjoyment in not knowing what's coming. And so the doors are flung open for you to the future. What's on the horizon? Well, let's talk about season 2. Sure. Season 2 happening?
So we hope so. We still actually haven't heard a confirmation yet. It's only been 30 days now or something like that, but it's getting intense and heated. We're having conversations between the cast and producers. So we're hopefully going to just hit the floor running once we hear there's a green light for it. So we're very hopeful. I couldn't see how there couldn't be.
Oh, dude, point. It's happening. It's happening.
I couldn't see how there couldn't be.
It's happening.
Yeah, but
let's put it this way. You got sent something on the launch of your show that's behind you. I didn't get anything. So I think that's an indication. That's an indication. No, your show is wicked good. It's super entertaining. If you haven't seen Bling Empire, you must have been vacationing on Mars for a month, because it is all over everywhere on social media. It is the talk of the town. On a personal, and the podcast is not ending, but just on a personal level, You are one of the nicest people that I've ever met in LA, Kevin. You are genuine. You are giving. You are a sweet guy, super kind of giving away of all the information that you know. And I find you aspirational for me. I often think about you when I'm making, certain decisions, like, because we talk about food and fitness.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nope, Kevin wouldn't let me eat that.
or put down that fourth cookie,
and I'm like, I'm never gonna look like Kevin anyway, because it was a toss up at the Abercrombie and Fitch store. It was going to be Kevin or me. Kevin won it by just a thread.
Just one ab, apparently. I made it by one ab.
So the doors are flung open. You're a young guy. The rest of your life is ahead of you. What is on the horizon? What are you cooking?
So I'm still writing about, because I think the stories of Asian and especially Korean adoptees are very underrepresented and just not well known. This is the first time I think the world is seeing the world through a Korean adoptee's eyes. And so I've been writing and hopefully can act in some of these projects and scripts. But like my whole main goal isn't to be a full-time actor. I want to act in the things that really mean something to me, that I'm made for, that represent me and the community I want to serve. But ultimately, like, I'd love to have film production where I'm just doing the things that I want to do. I want to do talks like this. I want on a very big level, like, television and film or podcasting. But, I obviously want to work on products that align with my mental health and spirituality and fitness. So all of that is just all intertwined of who I am and what I want the world to get from whatever the years of experience I've done, and the people like you who come on to my show, like all of that stuff. I want the world to see all of that and a little bit into my world.
Beautiful stuff. I want to just drill down a little bit on, you mentioned mental health.
Yeah.
Now I want to drill down on the fact that one of the biggest obstacles for entrepreneurs is when we all have that, oh my God, it's never going to happen moment. Oh my God, why isn't that guy calling me back?
90% of the time. Right. Expectations. You always have to remind me about that.
Yeah. Expectations are expectations and perfection are the two biggest evils of success, I believe. But when you must have gone through moments, even with the Netflix show, where you're like, shit, this is not happening. It's not going to get made. Oh my God. How do you fight in many of our cases, how do you fight the daily demons so that you can push through that self-doubt to success?
Totally. Well, I think it does have to. Well, my first self-doubt was when I moved here a couple weeks in, and we didn't hear anything from Jeff Jenkins, the producer, because, he was about to go pitch the show for a little bit. And I was like, pitch? What do you mean pitch? He's like, yeah, I mean, we took a sizzle reel and we need to pitch it. We need to sell it to people. And it's like, oh, you mean there's a chance this could not be made? He's like, absolutely. Like, things don't get made all the time in Hollywood. I was like, oh my God, I just moved here. Everything. I thought we were doing a show. He's like, no, we're developing it, and we're going to pitch it. And but everything just seemed aligned. So yeah, there was self-doubt right there and everything. And I was like, oh my God, this is not going to work out. But what I do in times like that is I lean into people, right? Like people like you or good buddies of mine who have experienced things like this before. And, they always say the same stuff. It's like, dude, just self-care a little bit more, like lean into faith, right? Like all of that stuff. And it's so true. So I had to just look at where I could do me, like I could be kind to myself and not so hard on myself, and do the things that I can do in front of me. And a lot of it was just writing or just saying yes to this job or that job, even though I didn't want to do it, or meet this person or that. But now that the doors are open, I can say no to things for the first time, which is amazing. But I usually say no because it doesn't align with who I am and what I'm made for in this world. It doesn't align with my purpose that got me here to begin with. So anything that strays away from it too much, is going to not only get me off the wrong path, but also the people who've trusted me and followed me for so long, it'll get them off the wrong path too. So it's not like saying I won't take a brand endorsement or something, but if it's like, I don't know, I don't know what brands would actually go against with what I say, but it's like, if they don't understand who I am and what community I want to serve, they don't understand me, and my brand.
There's a couple of phrases that you use, Kevin, which I think are so powerful. And for me, the most, not always, but generally, very successful people understand the concept of service, and not in a quid pro quo. People are not of service because they get something. People I find who are successful are of service because they just feel like it makes them feel better to be of service. And the byproduct is when we are helping other folks, or just doing shit like this, just doing a podcast, sharing ideas, shooting the shit, going backwards and forwards. There might be someone sitting in Boise going, you know what, dude? I've been wanting to move to LA for a long time, or New York, or wherever. And you now have given them the inspiration to do that. And I think that, coupled with, there's another phrase that's so powerful, which is to thine own self be true. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe that's a Bible quote. Or maybe it's Shakespeare.
I think that was from The Matrix.
Or was it? Or maybe it's a Matrix
quote.
On
the top of the thing. It's like, well, what's that say? It's in Latin. Didn't they say that? Maybe.
Did they? Maybe. Well, let's just say they did, Kevin. I think I prefer that it's from The Matrix than the Bible. But
yeah, you
are in Hollywood now, where you and I have both seen people's careers get derailed by, doing any old show or any old endorsement, any old product, and taking any old part in a film that might not be so good. So to already have that power of you know what it is, ladies and gentlemen? Kevin has this, you're very centered. You're very, who you are.
Yeah.
You're not filled with, you don't appear to be filled with any kind of insecurity. And it's not like bravado or, I'm the man. You just seem very centered and comfortable with who you are. But I think that's maybe because of the journey. Is it because of the journey you took of finding yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I think because it wasn't an easy journey where my place in the world was just laid out for me. I had to look for it. I had to keep searching for it. And actually, an ex-girlfriend of mine reminded me of that after Bling Empire aired. And she reached out and just said, hey, looks like you found your place, And then we started chatting and I was like, yeah, we ended up our relationship really bad. I'm really sorry. Like, I was just not in a good place. I was lost. I didn't feel like I was belonging anywhere and I was trying too hard. And she's like, no, I get it. She's like, you were young. You didn't know what you were doing. I didn't know what I was doing. And it was just like, all good, we're all happy. So it took a long time and a lot of pain to find my place in the world. So anybody who is hopeless in finding it, you can find it. Like, I had to find it. But the thing is, I never kept my feet still. I kept my feet moving. And so I think a lot of times, too many people, when they're feeling that way, I can be guilty of this, is I think I know what's best for me. So I'll say no to too many things, but you're like not in a position to say no yet. You don't know what you really want or where you belong to, because you'll be surprised if you just keep saying yes, you'll find it. You know what I mean? Like, I just kept saying yes to everything. Huffington Post reaches out. Yes. I have no clue how this is going to perceived a model talking about not getting many matches, or talking about not feeling sexy as a model. Like, I was scared because it was like, this could go way over people's heads or this could hit home. But I had to trust myself and be like, okay. And then I did it. And then so many people just reached out afterwards and I just kept saying yes. And now it's at a point where I can say no, because there are things coming my way that has nothing to do with what got me here and what I feel like I'm really talented at.
Blowing my mind here. It's like to have the steadfastness to know oneself so kind of intimately and not be guided by 1,000 forms of fear, because insecurity in Los Angeles, especially in the entertainment community, is something that runs rampant. And I think one of the big takeaways from this whole interview is, ladies and gentlemen, earlier on, you heard Kevin say that he struggled for 15, 17 years, right? but you stayed in the game. What gave you the strength to stay in the game? Why didn't you just quit and say, screw it, I'm going to go get a cushy job and buy a house in Philly?
The fear of regret kind of just, I didn't want to regret at this age, at 37. Maybe I would have a house with a kid and a wife, probably divorced, actually, knowing me twice even, and it's just, I don't want that regret that I didn't live my purpose. There's something that just guided me, like that inner compass I had. Like I didn't want to ignore it. And even though it was leading me the wrong way, or at least it felt that way, it was actually leading me the right way the whole time. And just so like following that inner compass had me in like, I don't want to live in regret. And if I didn't try, then there's no way that I could be happy with myself. And to see the world change in a positive way, and to not be a part of it, that was a little bit of FOMO. I was like, well, what if things do happen? And it's like, if I quit before the miracle happens, it's like, I get so much FOMO. So I know FOMO is like a bad thing, but it was a good thing for me because it was beyond myself. It was for other people and for a bigger purpose and cause. So I think FOMO in that way is a very healthy, good thing. FOMO of like, oh, I'm just not going to get famous. What if there's a Netflix reality show about all Asians who nobody thought about, Yeah, you're going to use it the wrong way.
It's so powerful what you just said, because you talked about mistakes, right? You talked about making, putting one's foot in it, and life changes that we can either live in regret or we can trust in the process.
Trust.
I mean, case in point is, my wife, right? And my wife came from the most horrendous, us meeting. She came escaping a country that was being gripped by war. She was a Vietnamese boat person, right? I was a crazy dude in British clubland and kind of burned too many bridges and ran away to America. And she could have wallowed in self-pity, and I could have wallowed in self-pity, and you could have wallowed in self-pity. But instead, we just trusted the process. And a friend of mine called Solomon, I sat down with him to have lunch a few years ago, and I said I regretted a bunch of stuff that I did. And he said these beautiful words to me, which were, Pete, you should never regret anything, because it's just one patch on the patchwork quilt of your life. And they're all connected. And as long as it leads to something that's beautiful, never beat yourself up.
That's beautiful. But I would also say this too. It's normal to be in self-pity for a second or two or whatever. Sure. It's just more like, how long are you going to stay in there for? And for me, I just rather not stay in there for as little as possible. And the actions of whatever you're doing next really get me out of it. It's like, you feel by taking the right actions, not you feel, then you take the actions. I think I messed that one up, but I'm just saying, like, I really believe just keep moving, keep doing the thing, and it'll appear for you.
Stay in action and the head will follow. Stay in action and out of expectations. Action is everything, right?
Seriously is. And sometimes it doesn't seem like the right one, but it usually is still, even if it messes things up. Oh, that's another thing. I wanted to be an actor. And so I had to say goodbye to acting. And I was just like, I just don't feel like, why does this feel so horrible? But like, I was so narrow minded. I was like, I just want to be an actor. There's no way. And then this reality show came up and I'm like, but I want to be an actor, And guess what? I enjoy it more. I enjoy unscripted, it's like, I enjoy just being myself more than actually acting. So it's like, wow, I really didn't know what was good for me at the time, but it showed up, I did it, and everything just falls into place.
Which was your favorite episode? Are you allowed to say?
Oh, yeah, of course. South Carolina, going to South Carolina in episode 7 was definitely my favorite episode. Yeah, for sure. I loved it. Loved traveling with Kane, loved traveling and snooping around. And it was just so much fun.
And then off camera, I presume, I mean, I'm sure everybody's really super cool because, I mean, it's a reality show. So you're filming them as who they are, right? So totally. I imagine when the cameras go off, you're still having a riot.
Totally. I mean, actually, there were points where we just kept going and they were done filming. The camera crew's like, oh my God, we should have kept the cameras on. It's like, well, this is just us all the time anyway. Like you could literally have it on us 24/7. You'd have 80 seasons by now. Like there's always something going on. And so I don't know. Part of me was just like hard to hang out sometimes afterwards because I'm like, oh, the camera should be here. But I'm like, dude, we're just like this. It's like there will always be content and funny things and fun stuff. It's just because it's the real crew. It's like the real deal.
What has been the reaction from the Asian community?
It was slow in the beginning. The Asian community was not behind it. Slowly now, even still, some outlets who advocate for Asian content still haven't really advocated for it. But the people, the fans and writers are now starting to really see the positive impact on it, even giving it a chance. And, most Asians don't watch reality TV shows, I would say, but this one they made an exception for and fell in love with it. So it's the everybody but Asians in the beginning loved it. And now Asians are starting to embrace it now. That's what it seems like.
Oh, it's such a great show, dude. I mean, It looks like you guys just it looks like it was just a riot from beginning to end. And you got to eat in all these fabulous places and hang out in these awesome spots. Oh my God.
We still do. It's like, I went to Cherie's birthday and she just had these random dinners at like Michelin star restaurants, and I'm like, this is a Michelin star restaurant. I was like, this is the first one that I'm even conscious of eating at. It's like I'm used to like taco trucks and stuff, or ramen, and it's just like, she's like, you've never been to one? I was like, not that I know of. But it was just amazing. It's just wild. Like they're just lovely people. We hang out all the time.
Oh, it's so great. Well, I know everybody. Listen, I'm not a gambling man, and if I was, I would be betting everything I have on season 2 coming. It's a no-brainer. I mean, dude, you're here around the world. You're number 1 in how many countries?
At least 20, I think it was.
Come on.
Well, definitely at least Singapore, Hong Kong, I believe it was, and some other Asian countries, but top 10 in at least 23 countries, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great.
Not bad for your first Netflix show then.
Yeah, and first season. So
first season.
Yeah. First season.
Kevin, you are just such a joy. Will you come back and see us again on the podcast another time?
Absolutely. I love being here.
Yeah. It's so great. If you have been living under you wouldn't have even got to the end of the podcast, but in case you don't know where to find Bling Empire, just launch that pretty little red icon on your phone or on Apple TV or wherever it is. Bling Empire, Kevin Kreider. It is absolutely brilliant. You are a delight. You are a mate. I am honored to be in your life, and I cannot thank you enough for coming on the podcast, Kevin.
Thanks for having me, Peter. Love it.
You are a god. Thank you.
No, don't say that, please. No. Demigod? No, I'm kidding. Just thank you.
Awesome, dude.
Thank you.
Awesome. That's about it for the podcast this week. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back again next week with another topic and another great podcast. So don't forget to hit that button and subscribe. Until next time, take care, and I will see you later.